Welcome to the Pansa Pansa Forum. In the Yoruba language, the word pansa is usually injected into poetry to express an uncomfortable, uncensored, and inconvenient truth. The Pansa Pansa Forum is candid conversations about the life of African immigrants in America as it relates to their adaptation to their new home. While some may find it easy to integrate and can balance between retaining the original African culture while accepting the culture of their new home, many continue to struggle to find a balance between both worlds.
Hello and welcome to Pansa Pansa Live. This is a podcast where we discuss the lives of African immigrants and their assimilation into Western society as they raise younger generations in a country that is quite different from their own. We also explore the experiences of children of immigrants as they balance the African and Western cultures. We present to you this informative, interesting, and expansive dialogue about the intricate experiences of African immigrants in America.
Welcome to Pansa Pansa Live Podcast. I'm your host, Kemi Steriki, and today I'm having conversation with Blessing Kayode, the founder and the director of Yoruba Lesson. I came across your impressive YouTube Yoruba Lesson, and I found it very remarkable that you, a younger generation in the diaspora, are actually taking a pride in our language and our culture. And I'm so happy. I'm proud of what you've been doing. I went on your website. I was so impressed by what you're doing. So welcome to Pansa Pansa Blessing. I really appreciate you coming on this platform to have conversation with me. So as I always tell many of my guests, can you fully introduce yourself, talk a little bit about your background as to our audience, as to where you were born, where you spend most of your childhood and adult life.
Thank you so much for having me, Ma. I'm really happy to be here. My name is Blessing, or Ibukun, Kayode, and I was born in Nigeria, and Ibadan to be precise. And I stayed there till I was about 2. Then I moved to Ilorin for another 4 years with my grandparents. And then when I was 6, my parents brought me to England. And I've been in England ever since, up until 2018, when I went back to Nigeria for law school, because I just wanted to know what it was like to live in Nigeria. And I didn't know anyone there. I didn't have any friends. I just said, I'm going. I jumped on a plane. Yeah. My mom was like, I don't know about that one. But I was like, I want to do it and I wanted to qualify. So I went there. It was good. I was there for a year and a half. Then I came back in the end of 2019. And yeah, that's kind of my story, kind of growing up.
Wow.
Mostly in England.
The Ilorin and the Bado that you mentioned is actually my own ancestral heritage too. From my mother's side. My mother is from Ibadan. And grandmother also connected with the Ilorin. So that shows the connection right there. And I always tell people think the Yoruba language is the same. And I said the dialect is quite different. The way Ilorin we speak Yoruba is different from the way Ibadans we speak Yoruba. Ijebu has a different way of speaking Yoruba. Then you also go to Ondo. Completely different. I don't even know when they are talking, whether it's another language in itself, but we're all Yoruba. So before we get into the conversation about Yoruba Lesson and the amazing work you are doing, teaching rich culture and the language to the world, I would like to explore your view on identity as an African living in the diaspora. For African immigrants in US, Black identity, African immigrant struggle, how we navigate through the racialized world is one of the experiences that is very challenging to us. So I'm always interested in having conversation with Africans in the Europe about their struggle in navigating through the European system as Africans. So what would you say to that?
It's very layered because I think sometimes the home in which you grow up in can also affect how you feel about it. Mm-hmm. So sometimes, like I have a lot of friends who are in the same position as me. They were born in Nigeria, but they left at a very young age. Yes. Or they were born here, but their parents are mostly Nigerian. And a lot of them will say, if you ask them, where are you from or what's your heritage? I'm British. You know, that's their first go-to. You really have to push to find out, okay, you're Nigerian. Yes. Whereas for someone like me, maybe because my parents were they had a very big Nigerian culture in the house. I listen to Nigerian music. We eat Nigerian food. In my head, I'm first of all Nigerian before I would say I'm British. So even though I've lived here most of my life, I see myself as Nigerian first, British second, or at least more of a balance. But a lot of my friends see themselves as British first, and then they'll say my parents are Nigerian. So I think it might be because of maybe your home can be more British, if that makes sense, or your home can be more Nigerian based on how your parents are, what kind of food they like. That kind of stuff. So I would say it's very difficult, and I understand when people feel that they're Nigerian, because some people say, I have no connections to Nigeria. I've never been there, or I've only been there once. I don't feel comfortable saying I'm just Nigerian. So I understand that for them as well. I think when I was younger, being Nigerian was not cool. Nobody wanted to be Nigerian. Everybody wanted to be Jamaican. So everyone would exactly. Everyone would say, oh, they're Jamaican, or like they'll be putting on accents. If you were Nigerian, they used to call us, stuff like African booty scratcher. They'll just call you weird names. Or go back to your country. So a lot of people growing up being Nigerian wasn't cool. And so as you grow up, you kind of subconsciously maybe hold on to that, and you don't really want to make it your identity. You just want to be, I'm just a Black person. I'm Black British. So I think that's kind of what I would say my experience is.
Wow. And that is so sad. And that comes in terms of the children not actually embracing their culture, which you quite right about, the parents not focusing on teaching about the culture, even though the language might be very difficult in terms of teaching the children the language and all that stuff. But in terms of understanding the essence of where they come from, because I'm a parent here too, and I have 2 children. And I've said it on this podcast, when my children were growing up, and my son now is 26, my daughter is 23. When they were growing up, I brought in Yoruba culture into the school. I do African folk tale storytelling. That's how my storytelling talent was developed. Because I said, even though they were born here, I don't want them to be ashamed of their African heritage, to the extent when they mention Africa, they have to feel like they have to hide under the table without being proud of who they are. So every year during the Black History Month, I used to go inside their classroom and I bring in figurines, statue, and, I do African folk tale, the Yoruba folk tale. And I bought a book that guided me into a day in the life of an African child. Back home, everyday activities, and I show them the picture. And you will be so amazed how these children gravitate towards that. They say, wow, this is so amazing that children are so free to create their own game instead of buying toys for them. They use every equipment, everything that they find in their neighborhood to create something very motivating, to play games, to engage each other. And they find that very creative. So I really understand that. And we have to do a better job, because I think this also comes from colonization that has brainwashed so many Africans from generation to generation. I believe when you were home, did you find some people who only speak English and they don't speak their language?
100%. A lot of my friends that live in Lagos, they can't speak Yoruba. And they are, they live in Lagos, they are Yoruba, their parents are Yoruba, and they can't speak it at all. Actually, almost all of them. But I noticed maybe like my Igbo friends, they speak Igbo, but Yoruba especially, no.
That's really interesting. So how do you identify yourself now? Do you call yourself Nigerian British?
Yes, I would say I'm Black British. And then if you ask me where I'm from, I'd say I'm Nigerian.
Okay, so you're able to break that down so that it's not you being recognized as a Jamaican. Instead of in Nigeria, you could break it down and say, actually, I'm Yoruba. What would you say are some of the challenges and struggle of being the first generation African child growing up in England? One of my nephew that I adopted in America here is a professor. He said he calls those who were brought to America or Europe at a very young age, 1.5. So what would you say are some of the struggle or the challenges of being first generation child of African immigrant child growing up in Europe?
I'd say it's probably more like mindset. I think when me and my parents, we speak a lot, we just have different mindsets, because obviously when you grow up here, you have like kind of like a British mindset or an American mindset, but your parents have Nigerian mindsets. And I think I can understand where they're coming from because I still watch Yoruba movies and stuff. But like my youngest sister, she's 18. For her, she doesn't, they just, when they argue, it's just like they don't see where they're coming from at all. My parents will say, "Yo, this is a Nigerian house. You know, this is how we do things in Nigeria. So we're not in Nigeria." So, and they said, "This is our culture." She said, "I don't like that culture." So I think the biggest difference I can see or a challenge is for my parents to understand kind of the way that I think and for me to understand the way they think and trying to just put it together. I think that's what I find is mostly the problem. We clash on, but why do you do that? That's our culture, but I don't understand. Yeah, I would say that's the biggest.
And it's so true what you said. That's why I started this dialogue in America, because there's a gap in terms of parents understanding their children growing up here in America or in the diaspora, or the children who don't understand some of the struggle the parents may be going through. That sometimes is anxiety of what they see outside that sometimes may be very restrictive, but then they are not open to conversation, dialogue, in listening to their children. And when I say listen, it's not just, I have to find out in how from my kids, because my children, they're very open in talking to me and they will tell me how they feel. You know, my son has told me before, he said, when he tells me, I want to talk to you, I have to listen. I have to learn to listen. And learning to listen is not giving my opinion. Yeah,
true.
Right? You see? Do you agree with me?
Yes.
Not giving my opinion. It's just to say, okay, I hear you. And the body language that I also possess at that time that is talking to me, or my daughter is talking to me, also matters. So that's part of what I'm trying to bring out through this podcast, to talk about the relationship between African immigrant parents and their children, how we could actually blend that in, even though we are so rigid in the way we were brought up. And we also have to understand what are the struggles that our children are going through, and they are not growing up back home, where it's a known territory for many of the parents. So we have to find a way to adjust and the way we are raising our children. So thank you so much for that. You went to college in Britain, right?
Yes, ma'am.
What was your initial major?
Law.
Law. So are you practicing?
No. I teach Yoruba full time.
You teach Yoruba full time? Wow, that's really interesting. That's really interesting. When you were in college, how did you navigate through social life in college? Did you struggle fitting into the predominant culture in your college campus, especially coming from an immigrant home?
Not so much. I think by the time I'd gotten to college, I've lived here from like primary, secondary, A-levels. So it was kind of just like my everyday. I think also because I went to a very multicultural city for college. Okay. So Manchester there's so many Black people, white people, Asian people. So I think a lot of my friends were actually Black. They were also Nigerian, maybe Ghanaian. It wasn't very different from my friends from college or A-levels.
The school is predominantly all other people of color as well.
Yeah, to some extent. There was a lot of white people, but it was so multicultural that you could find your people easily.
But did you also integrate into the white environment within the school?
Yeah, so two of my roommates were, well, a lot of my roommates were, none of them were Black, but there was two that I was close to and they were white and we got on really well as well. And I didn't really feel different. It was just like, just who you make friends with and who you gravitate towards. Yes. They were very lovely. And we never felt, in fact, one of the Asian roommates that we had used to make meals for us. Mm-hmm. So the whole house, there was 8 of us in the apartment. She would make like an Asian meal, make us sushi, things we'd never tried before. Yes. And then the white one would make a roast dinner. I would bring jollof rice. So we were very kind of open to learning about each other. It was nice.
That's really nice. And that's what I'm talking about. And that's great because even with your specialty now in teaching Yoruba, you might be surprised of finding some even white people interested in learning Yoruba. Some Asian people interested in learning Yoruba because the world is now global. So that is great. And that shows that you could connect with anybody from any background. That's great. So now let's dive into your Yoruba lesson. So what prompts your interest in teaching Yoruba language and culture? I would say culture, because Yoruba is a language. We cannot separate the language from the culture. They are all the same. So how did you come about with your interest in that field?
So it's very random because if you told me I'd be teaching Yoruba, I would have told you how. So in, let's say maybe 2017, I just made a video. I had a YouTube anyway, but it was just about everyday life. So I just made like a video, mostly for my friends that were Yoruba but couldn't speak, just saying basic stuff like, Valani, just the basics. I just put it on my channel and continued making the different kind of content I was making. And my channel was like on 700 subscribers. And I noticed that it was just growing, and it was like 800, 900, 1,000. And it was because of this Yoruba video. Yeah. I was like, why are people watching this? I didn't pay any attention. So when it was like maybe 900, I said, okay, let me put out episode 2. And then I noticed not only were people watching and subscribing to the channel because of those videos, they started emailing me and saying, do I do one-on-one lessons? Wow. So back then I was actually working in an office. I worked in compliance. So I would just do some maybe after work, maybe 3 people for my weekends. It was nothing big. So when I went to law school and came back, but then I had like a good amount of students, maybe 20 something. When I came back, before I could get like another law job and go into the law field properly, now that I'm qualified, pandemic started. Okay. And so many people were at home and wanted to learn Yoruba. So now I had so many students, it was full time that there was no need to look for another job because I wouldn't have time. I was teaching every single day. And then from there, it became my full-time job, and I've not changed since.
Wow. You see what the pandemic, I believe many people changed their career as a result of this pandemic, because people were at home, and that actually kept you engaged in terms of creating your own venue. And, sometimes bad things happen, but good things come out of it. So how diversified are your students?
Actually, funny enough, most of them are in America. I don't know why. So mostly Americans. My audience generally is mostly Americans. There are people who their parents didn't teach them, so they want to learn now that they're older. There are children. There are people who married into the Yoruba culture. Mostly women, but there are some men who married a Yoruba woman they want to learn. There are African Americans who did a DNA test, found out that they had Nigerian heritage. They want to learn the language. I have quite a lot of them. There's white people dating or having friends that are Black or Yoruba, and they want to communicate with them. Everyone.
Oh my God.
Everyone.
You already initiate your career, and I know you're going to grow into this a lot. It was by accident that I came across you. And I said, what? And you're so patient. It's like you have that talent in you. that you didn't even realize it, before you went into law school and all that stuff. So I'm really glad, and I'm happy to see that you're doing that. Even me, with my children here, I wasn't speaking Yoruba to them. So mostly English. The only thing is the food, the culture that I brought in. My son will greet me, we say, actually, they don't call me mommy. So my son actually asked me, what do you call mother in Yoruba? And I didn't want to say mommy, because it ended up to be mommy with the American accent. So I have to say Iyami. So till today, they both call me Iyami. And all their friends also call me Iyami. So I'm going to show your video to my son and my daughter too. They might be students as time goes on, when they have to pay for their own lessons. So you're doing a good job, and I'm so proud of what you're doing, because like I said, you are teaching the adults, parents, and those who came from the generation who may be born in the 50s, 60s, and whereby the English language was carried as if it's something so important that we have to speak it so perfectly, even to the extent without an accent. We embrace the British culture, the European culture, as a result of the brainwashing that they did during colonization. And you have to look at our educational system is all in English. So that's the sad part of what is going on. So how would you advise African parents who are in the diaspora in terms of teaching their children the culture and the language?
I would say start young. because the less you have to think about it. A lot of things people keep saying is they're not confident, they're conscious. Mm-hmm. And I think children are less self-conscious than adults are. Yeah. So if they start young, they're not going to be, people are going to laugh at me. They'll just speak freely. And I think children actually absorb languages quicker than adults do. Yeah. But also just making it a part of everyday life. So I myself don't really know why I'm able to speak, because like my older brother and my younger sister, theirs is just okay. So I think it's because like I used to watch Hollywood movies. When my parents spoke to me, I would respond back. So even if it's something little as when you want to say take, you don't say mommy take, like mommy egba. Just something little, or when you say it to them, make them respond it back to you. So if you say oyawa, they'll say back, oh mumboma, or something like that. That way, it's just, even if it's little, they get confident. A lot of people, they actually know the words to say, but they're not confident to say it. Yeah. And because they don't practice, it becomes a big thing. I can't speak Yoruba, whereas they can. They can. So I think encouraging them to speak it, not just to listen, is really the best method.
And I'm glad you also included in your teaching the dynamics of respecting the elders. How do you address an older person compared to a younger person? So that part of the culture I really appreciate. So, and I also understand that you also include some tradition. What are that area?
I really love Nigeria, like Yoruba tradition and culture. And even me, I'm always trying to learn more and more about it. I'm always like, Daddy, tell me more. Because my dad is very Yoruba man. But I think just kind of seeing from my family, movies, anytime I learn something, I try and also tell the people that are watching something, because I think our tradition is very important. And if we don't learn it from the older generation, it may just end with them. So as much as I can learn or understand, I'm always asking, why do we do this? What do you do when you're getting married? What do you have to bring when you're doing naming ceremony? All that kind of stuff. We shouldn't lose it.
Yeah, we can, because it's so rich. Yeah. My children being born here, both of them, they had the traditional bath, because I found somebody who could give them the traditional bath of, the sponge, the palm oil, and everything that they have to do traditionally. And I'm glad you were talking about you being roommates to other people from different culture. If you look at your Asian friends, they are very rich. They really appreciate their culture, and the way they relate to their elders is different. Is more in a respectful manner, because one thing that I've seen with a lot of our children in the diaspora, they're losing the sense of that respect, whereby they want to call the adult by their first name. For me, even with this podcast, I have to tell some of them, listen, address me by Mrs. Somebody. That's the essence of culture. And if you look at the European culture, that's why they address somebody by Mr. or Miss Somebody. It's a liberal set of people who are now in the position whereby they want to impose other value on other people. And then a lot of our children take it. I want to ask you, which it wasn't part of my question anyway. What do you think about people who are always fighting for cultural appropriation? Those are the new set of people who are actually talking about cultural appropriation. You yourself, you are not really appropriating anything, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's very interesting, because are we gatekeeping, or are we genuinely concerned? It's always a bit of a sticky one. I like when people take an interest in like my culture. If it's done respectfully, like genuinely, if someone does make a mistake, I think we can correct in love. There's grace. We can just say, in my culture, that's sacred. So I would appreciate if, maybe this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do. There's no point fighting people for, like, even the hair we're wearing is not ours. So no one is coming to say, this. I think there's grace, and I think there's room for, like, Asian people, I think they take their culture very seriously. So if you do something wrong, they're happy to tell you, but never with bad intent. I think grace is important. So if you think, this is really important to me for my culture, I don't like the way this person is, saying that this is not cornrows or shuku, it's updo, ponytail, whatever. You to just let people know this is shuku in my culture, or this is, I don't know, abetiaja, or this is, just educate people is better than telling them, your culture appropriating, don't wear that. use that opportunity to educate them. You know, in Nigeria, this is originated from, and I think that's a better approach than just telling them, you're not allowed to wear braids because,
And to me, that is so sad. Like I said, this bunch of new generation wants to be a cultural gatekeeper on the internet and ask them questions really deeply about their culture. They can't really answer it. And even traditionally back home, when you see many people who came to different part of Africa, especially the Europeans, the British who came to Nigeria, who are white, some of them were speaking Yoruba. Some of them were actually speaking Igbo. They speak Hausa because they know they have to relate to the local people. And some of them, you see the old picture where they wore the traditional attire. I remember when my son in the school where he went to, his first year in that school, when he was very young in 3rd grade, a white woman approached me and she said, I was born in Nigeria. I was born in Ibadan. It's as if I saw a sister and we both and embrace each other. She said, my name is Kokumbo. According to how we do, culturally, it doesn't matter who comes in, as long as they embrace it and they appreciate it. Culture is not meant for only you. Some other people might appreciate it. Just the same way you take up on European culture in the way you set table and put a knife and the fork and all kinds of stuff, on the table when you want to eat. So it's all part of the same thing. And I really appreciate you coming into that to explain that. So would you say your parents influenced your love and appreciation for Yoruba language and culture? Because I want you to tell the audience.
Yes, they did. I think they did, especially my dad. So whenever my dad is like advising you about life or anything, he'll put a proverb, no matter what the situation, he'll find a Yoruba proverb that will apply to that situation, and just understanding the depth of the language really makes me want to learn more about it. So like something that you can't just say in an English sentence, when you say one Yoruba phrase, it really goes deep. You're just so deep. And there's layers. You can look at it from different directions.
Yes.
So I think that made me, I want to know more about not just the language, but the culture that inspires the language. Because a lot of our language is based on how we are as people, how generous we are, how open we are, how intelligent we are. So I think especially my dad speaking Yoruba to me and with the proverbs, it just made me want to learn more, 100%.
Thank you. Thank you. That proverb is so important. And you are so right in the way, because we don't appreciate our culture. Because like I said, growing up, even when I was growing up in Nigeria, when I was in high school, you can't even speak Yoruba. You can't speak Igbo. They will say, don't speak vernacular.
Yeah.
They embrace so much of European language to the extent if you pick up, even till today, you pick up a book written by a Nigerian who is in academia, whatever you want to call them, in teaching in university, make sure you have a dictionary. Okay, on the side, Oxford Dictionary to diagnose what they are trying to say. Compared to him coming here in America, I pick up a book written by a medical doctor who is trying to communicate with the masses. You easily understand what they are trying to say, what they are explaining to you, compared to picking up a book written by somebody of African descent who is colonized, mentally, emotionally colonized by European culture. And this is part of where all this, the lack of embracement of our culture comes in, and we have to change it. And I'm so glad the younger generation are doing that. You guys are doing that. I'm so happy. That's why when I saw you on YouTube, I said, no, I have to contact this young lady, because I couldn't even, I keep looking at the videos. I keep looking at everything. And you're so right. Even the name in itself has some deep meaning. Naming a child traditionally has a deep meaning into it, until when Christianity and Islam came. Everybody now bears names that come from another tradition. It has to be your first name, then your middle name, then it becomes Yoruba or Igbo. The last name you pick up from your family heritage. Even when I was in school, I have so many of my classmates whereby they have British last name.
Really?
Oh, yes. When I was in school in Nigeria, I have friends, schoolmates whose last name are Beecroft, Davis.
I used to wonder about that, or like Williams. And I wonder, like, how come in Nigeria, people's last names are, I didn't understand it. But I heard it was about the colonization.
Yes, I think most of the people maybe changed their name as a result of Christianity. They were being forced to change their name in order to adopt them into the religion. The same thing goes for many of Africans who bear Mohammed, the Islamic name from different area, whereby it's not actually their traditional name, and they adapt to those names anyway. And then you have those Africans who came back from Brazil. In Lagos, you find the name of Fernandez. They came back from Brazil and all these places and claimed their origin again, but they kept the name that is being changed through the European kidnapping of African people anyway. So I'm really glad that you are into all that. So would you tell our audience how the courses and teaching are designed, such as the beginner, the intermediary, and the advanced, and give an example of each one?
Yeah, so my syllabus I like to treat Yoruba as a language in its own right. So what I notice is like when we want to learn English, or I'm learning French as well, we listen to all the French rules, all the English rules. We respect their rules, we respect their grammar. But with Yoruba, it's like, well, this is how you say this is how you say that. So I'm very big on understanding the Yoruba grammar, the Yoruba rules. Why do we say je and jeon to two different e? Why do we say dano or say? I really think we really should also give Yoruba the respect of it's its own it's very intricate. Yoruba is a complex, very intelligent language.
Yes.
And so and people don't realize, they just, it's just a language. No, the detail in the language is amazing. So I kind of tailor my syllabus to that. There are rules that we always have to learn. And then we start off with basic sentence starters. So after maybe 4 30-minute lessons, you'll be able to say, I want to eat, I can go, I am at home. And then we'll do greetings and everyday conversations, greeting people for the first time. I like to focus on connectives, tenses, negatives. It's a proper language. Let's learn it properly. But when people come and they already have some knowledge, then we won't start from the beginning. I'm quite flexible. If your main issue is speaking, maybe we'll just be having conversations and I'll design homework for you. If your main issue is putting accent marks, we can focus on that. So I'm quite flexible, but I have a syllabus that most people that come will start and follow through.
When are you writing your book?
I don't know. Maybe soon.
Yeah, please, you need to dig into it and write the book for those. I know you have a YouTube channel, but you have to write a book as well. And I think a lot of people could benefit from what you just said now in terms of understanding that Yoruba is very complex. It's something that everybody has to understand. The rule of the language is all part of it. So I'm so proud of you for all this you are doing. So apart from teaching Yoruba, you also dive into, we talked about it a little bit before, about the culture. Can you give an example of cultural tradition you are teaching?
Okay, so I think it usually depends on what people want. But let's say like the traditional wedding, I'm actually editing a video now about the Yoruba traditional wedding. So I went to one in June and I recorded every aspect of it, the alaga, when you go and ask for your bride. And I think a lot of people don't have that. So I really want to focus on, I want to explain the video bit by bit. So this is the groom's family coming to ask, like, can we come and ask for your daughter's hand in marriage? And then, before the wife can even come in. So even though traditional wedding, you've already accepted you're going to get married, we still honor the parents and the family.
Yes.
And, you still come and ask them, can I marry your daughter? And then you have to prostrate, you and your friends, you all prostrate to the family. It's just showing respect to the family, which I think Yorubas, we're very big on respect and we're very big on family. And I think the traditional wedding really highlights that, basically, those two things. So I think that video, I'm looking forward to doing like a blow-by-blow account.
Are you planning on doing traditional greetings, since you talk about the respect for the elders as well? And the respect goes both ways, because sometimes many of our elders of our community, sometimes they don't recognize that also respect goes both ways. And it comes also from the Proverbs. All work hands in hand with one another. So a child also deserves that respect. So do you also do the traditional naming ceremony and all that?
Yes, I really want to do videos on that. I actually write about them on my blog post, but I want to do videos, but I want to bring my dad so we can talk about it together. There's only so much that I don't want to miss out details, or because I haven't seen many naming ceremonies. So I really want to do naming ceremonies. Like, even the songs, like I want to I want to do all of those.
All that, yes.
Yeah, I know them, but my dad or my mom, someone
to help you with that. Yeah, do you I haven't dived into whether you are also interested in doing traditional Yoruba storytelling.
Okay, I am. I don't know much about it though. I'm definitely interested in learning a lot more about it, and I think I love storytelling, but I would have to know more, maybe do more research on it.
Well, I'm going to share a book with you after we finish that you could dive into. He's one of the Nigerian professors. He passed on now, and he married a white woman in America here, and he document all the Yoruba traditional storytelling. And all the storytelling. So it's something that maybe you could gain from that and include that into what you're doing. So, and I know, especially what you're doing, many African-American people of African descent, I would say, maybe they are from Brazil or from Latin America. We really appreciate the idea of what you're teaching in terms of the culture in itself during the naming ceremony. Because even the wedding here, I've seen many Nigerian weddings whereby many other people come, maybe some African Americans or other groups of diversified group in America comes to the wedding. And they are so amazed. They say, wow, you have to go to all this because you want to marry a woman. And I said, this is also telling you, before invasion of European tradition and Christianity, Yoruba women were highly respected. You just don't go to anybody's house and pick up their daughter and say you want to marry them. You have to go through process. Yeah. Because you are not just marrying your wife, it's two families coming together. So I'm glad that you are doing that. I understand you also hosting traveling group to Nigeria. Can you talk more about this and provide information?
Yeah, sure. So a lot of my students, they're in America or they're maybe first gen, they always talk about Nigeria, but they don't feel comfortable, or they feel maybe scared. Maybe if they ask their friends, they'll say, Nigeria is dangerous. So a lot of people don't want to go by themselves, even though they really want to go. So me and my team were just like, why not organize? And I love Nigeria. I know it's not perfect, but I love it. I enjoy it. So we were like, why not host a trip for people who want to go, but as a group, so that they can be more safe, more protected, and we'll just have each other and have fun. So we're organizing a trip to Nigeria this December for, just a small group of people. Yeah, so we can go and visit all the fun things you've heard about Lagos, the Nike Art Gallery. There's art in Nigeria, there's culture, there's tourism, the Terra culture, they put on plays, Marimi, just different kings and princesses of Yoruba culture that, you don't really hear about. They put on really big, elaborate plays. So it's just to go and really explore Nigeria firsthand. All the things you like about the Nigerian culture, you can actually experience it.
That's quite interesting. I'm glad. So how many have you done, or this is the first time you're doing it?
This will be the first one as a big group. So usually I've only gone with maybe one or two people, but now it will be a group of us.
A group of you. So you talk about your team. So you're also working with other people?
Yeah, so my Yoruba lessons team, we've got someone who manages social media. So they're the ones that are really up on top of that. We've got someone who works with partnerships, working with brands. So it's just like a group of people that work with me who help make everything run well.
Oh, wow. I'm really impressed by that. You guys know how to connect with each other. And I'm glad a lot of you are working together like that. And that's very important. So how can our listener also connect with you, those who may be interested in taking the class as well?
Okay. So the best place is yorubalessons.com. It has all the information on the trip, the class. If you just want to read articles, so the naming ceremony, I have an article on there. Weddings, burial, Ibukun. So there's yorubalessons.com has everything. But we also have an Instagram, Yoruba_lessons. Or you can just email me, yorubalessons@gmail.com. What about you? How do you feel about the younger generation or the first gen in the diaspora now? How do you feel about us?
I think it's give and take between there's people like you who actually embrace and empower the culture, and one thing I like about this first gen, it doesn't matter whether you Yoruba, Igbo or Hausa, all of you kind of connect with each other and you developing your own way of thinking, which might be challenging for many us adults, whereby we feel like you want to continue to keep you where you are and said, listen, you have to follow things accordingly. And I like the fact that you're able to explore in different areas. You are not afraid to explore different areas. You are not afraid to gravitate towards something of your interest. You tend to go without fear. In terms of dive into something that parents may say, oh my God, it's so scary. It's an unknown territory. We don't want to do all these things. You younger generation, be careful, whereby we're trying to protect you. But I like the fact that many of you dive into that. But I like the fact that there's collaboration among the younger generation, because I see it here, even in America. You have, apart from even Nigeria, you have many of young people whereby they might be from Ghana, Nigeria, Ivory Coast. They all connect together with each other and they interact and give information to one another. I like that aspect. The thing that I kind of like criticize them for is understanding also many of the struggle the adults also going through in this country, because it's not something easy trying to navigate and raising the children. The same way we adults need to understand some of your struggle is also the children to understand some of the adult struggle. When you were in Nigeria, you see there's a connection. You could go and greet family. You could do this. You could do that. You could travel to Ibadan from Lagos and go and greet your relatives and feel relaxed. Your whatever stress that you're going through will calm down. But when you are in Europe or you are in America, it's completely different. So many African immigrants living in isolation sometimes. That's why even no matter how Africa could be or Nigeria could be, people will say, I'm still going home. Even though they're going to go through a lot of stress, because it's to relieve the tension and say, at least, even though things might not be that easy when I get there might not be electrical power, I might face a lot of challenges, but I'm still going because I feel at home. I feel embraced. I feel empowered, compared to being in this country whereby it's a sort of like loneliness, for so many people. I think that is part of what our younger generation needs to understand.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Because many of us, we talk about retiring back, which I always challenge many of us. Okay, well, let's see how long that will last. In terms of returning back home, it's a good idea, but it could be challenging.
Very.
Because of lack of amenities in terms of, healthcare and that is needed in Nigeria that is not really adequate for so many people. That is the major part of issue that many people may have. And also safety. Everywhere could be dangerous. There's no place that you could say, oh, this is 100% safe.
Exactly.
If anything happens, how can you get the necessary help that you need in terms of so that's part of until when things start changing, maybe it will be different.
I think the help is the main thing, because if something happens, can you trust the police? Can you go to the hospital? So I think the firefighter, are they really active? I don't know. So I think that's the biggest concern.
Nigerians love their country. Many Africans, they love their countries. And that's why you see many go back home all the time. And many people who save their money thinking that I'm going to go back home, establish something, and that's where I'm going to retire. Then they end up going, then they find out that the environment is not really geared towards most of their needs.
Especially if you've lived a long time here and it's a culture shock. Just have your life the simplicity and simpleness of life, in the diaspora is very different to Nigeria. Nigeria is very, work hard, struggle, tiredness. So it's a very big difference. And if you're not prepared, you'll run back.
I've had many of Nigerians who have been here even before independence of Nigeria. They've been abroad and they go back every year, but they can't live there. There's some who go there and they go and teach in university to give their time. Maybe they are a medical doctor and they go back there to help other medical doctors in Nigeria to do training and all that stuff. But it's not a place where they could live, because even living there, moving out of Nigeria for so long, sometimes you cannot even connect with your friends that you left back home. The way you see things, the way you relate to each other will be different compared to those who have been there for so long. So, but people still go back from time to time. What is your parents? What do they say about what you're doing now? What is their comment? How proud are they about what you're doing now? Even though they're, oh my God, we send Blessing to medical school. We send her to law school. Now,
especially, they want to brag.
What's their comment?
Yeah. So in the beginning, because, law school, my dad wants to become, she's a lawyer. And so when I first started, often they would ask me, okay, so when are you going to get a job? And I'll say, this is a job. This is my job. But now they'll say, so don't you want a job? I said, this is my job. I like it. But now they're very proud. And I think because God has been very faithful, I've been blessed with the work. I make a good living from it. So it's not like I'm struggling so I think now they're very proud, and they now show people my YouTube, or they'll share their friends my website and say, oh, Ibukun made this. And I'm like, yeah.
And you continue to expand. Yeah, you continue to expand. Yeah, so that's the proud moment of it. You continue to expand because many people will find out about you and they will subscribe to your lesson because you are so patient in terms of how you teach them. You explain everything to the fullest for people to understand. So that's a plus on that side. That's a plus. Have you come across any one of our young other Nigerian children who are maybe doing the same thing? Have you come across?
Yeah, so maybe people slightly older than me, but I noticed that now there's a lot of people are becoming teachers because I think they noticed there's a big market for it. There's so many people who want to learn, so one person can't do it all. I've not seen people maybe my age, but people just a bit older. There's quite a lot of them now.
Oh, who are doing it? Okay, I'm really impressed. Thank you so much. Pansa Pansa continue to normalize conversation about the importance of community engagement, about embracing our traditional language and culture. As I always say, as we publicly continue to discuss difficult issues within our communities, we're shedding away stigma associated with uncomfortable dialogue. So thank you so much, Blessing Kayode, for coming to Pansa Pansa and for continuing to embrace our culture and our tradition.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Pansa Pansa Live Podcast. We hope to have you back with us in the next episode as we continue to explore the nuances of the African immigrant experience. If you'd like to connect with us, you can email us at talk@pansapansa.org. That is talk@pansapansa.org. And follow us on Instagram at pansa.pansaforum. Until next time, remember to spread kindness and love. Thank you and take care of yourselves.